I slept with his best man. He leaked the video during dinner with my family. Hello, Reddit. My name is Rachel, and I'm 29 years old. I never thought I'd be on here writing something like this. In fact, I never thought my life would fall apart in a matter of minutes. But here I am, desperate, broken, and begging strangers on the internet for advice because I have nowhere else to turn. My husband, Ethan, doesn't want anything to do with me anymore. And honestly, I don't even blame him. But the thing is, I never meant for this to happen. I never meant to ruin everything. I never meant to destroy my marriage with my own hands, but it happened, and now I don't know what to do. I know what you're thinking. I know what you'll say. You'll probably say I deserve this, and tell me that Ethan should never forgive me. And maybe you're right. Maybe I do deserve this. Maybe I am the worst wife in the world. But I just need to let it all out because I'm rapidly losing my mind. I didn't wake up one day and decide to throw away my marriage. I didn't plan to hurt the man I love more than anything in this world. And I know people always say that when they get caught doing something horrible, but it's the truth. I could swear that I never wanted this. I wish I could rewind time and undo everything. I wish I had never gone to that wedding party. I wish I had never picked up that drink. I wish I had never trusted the wrong person. Because now, my husband, the man who once held me so gently, kissed my forehead every morning and told me he couldn't wait to grow old with me, won't even look at me. Ethan was my best friend before he was my husband. He was the kind of man who never raised his voice at me, never made me feel like I wasn't enough. He was patient, kind. He loved me in a way I didn't think was possible, in a way that made me feel safe. But now he looks at me like I'm a stranger, like he doesn't even recognize me anymore. And I don't know how to live with that. The night everything fell apart, I thought we were celebrating. It was supposed to be a special evening, something happy. We had been married for 2 years, and our families had come together for dinner. My mother was laughing at something Ethan said. My younger sister was teasing me about how much Ethan still looked at me like I hung the stars in the sky. Everything felt normal, perfect even. But then Ethan walked in. I should have known something was wrong the moment I saw him, the way he looked at me across the table. Usually Ethan would smile when our eyes clashed, but this time was different. He was staring at me in some way that I couldn't even explain. It made me uneasy, but I decided to ignore the feeling, and I stopped looking at him and focused on what my younger sister was saying. I wish I hadn't, because within seconds my entire life came crashing down around me. There was a noise, a chime, a buzz, a vibration. I heard it but didn't think much of it, and then I saw it. People picking up their phones. Confusion. Then silence, then gasps. I felt my own phone vibrate against the table, but I didn't pick it up. I couldn't. I looked across the table at Ethan, and it was like suddenly I could read meaning to the look on his face. He wasn't just angry or bitter. It was something worse. Betrayal. Complete and utter betrayal. I couldn't understand what was happening at that moment and why, so I reached for my phone, my fingers trembling, and when I saw the screen, when I saw what had just been sent to me, to everyone at that damn table by my own husband, my entire body went cold. It felt like the world had been ripped out from under me. I must have said his name. I must have whispered his name, because I remember the way he had smiled cynically and then walked out without any further explanation. My head swarmed with questions. How did he find out? Did Jordan say something to him? How did he get the video? There was no answer to those questions of mine, because almost immediately I heard my mother saying my name, her voice distant, shaking, confused. I could hear my father muttering something under his breath. I could hear Ethan's mother shouting angrily at me. But all I could do was sit there, frozen, staring at the screen, staring at the evidence of the worst mistake of my life. And the worst part? Jordan was there standing awkwardly at the corner of the room, looking like a rabbit caught in the headlights. It was only when my father stood up and charged at him that he had made a move and ran out of the house. It's been 5 awful days since then. Ethan won't speak to me. He won't answer my calls, won't respond to my texts. He's locked me out of our home, cut me out of his life as if I never existed. And I don't know what to do. I love my husband. I love him more than anything. But I think I might have just lost him forever. Ethan and I had been married for 2 years. And for the longest time, I thought we had the perfect relationship. Maybe it wasn't perfect in the fairy tale sense, but it was ours, and it worked. We understood each other in ways that I never thought possible. He was patient, loving, and made me feel like the luckiest woman in the world. Even when we argued, which wasn't often, Ethan never raised his voice at me. He never walked away angry or threw things or made me feel unsafe. He always took a deep breath, rubbed the back of his neck like he was trying to calm himself, and told me that no matter what, he loved me. And I believed him because I loved him too so much. For a long time, I thought we were untouchable, that nothing and no one could ever come between us. But I was wrong. I should have seen the warning signs long before everything fell apart. The truth is, looking back, the cracks were already there. I just chose to ignore them. And all of them went back to Jordan. Jordan had been Ethan's best friend since college. He was the kind of man who had a way of getting what he wanted, the kind of man who could talk himself out of anything. He had this cocky, laid-back energy, the type that made people either love him or hate him. There was no in-between. Ethan always spoke about him like he was a brother, like there was nothing in the world that could shake their friendship. And for the most part, I tried to like him. I really did. But there was always something off about him. I could never quite put my finger on it, but there was this subtle arrogance, this sense of entitlement that made my skin crawl. Jordan was a man who didn't believe in limits, rules, boundaries. Those were for other people, not him. The first time I met him, he flirted with me right in front of Ethan. It wasn't anything outright disrespectful, but it was enough to make me uncomfortable. I remember Ethan laughing it off, telling me that Jordan was just like that with everyone, that he didn't mean anything by it. So I let it go. I let a lot of things go. The way Jordan always found an excuse to touch me, an arm around my shoulder, a hand on my waist, brushing my hair back when Ethan wasn't looking. The way he lingered too close when we talked. How he'd drop his voice just enough to make it feel like we had some kind of secret, even when we didn't. The way he would always make little comments about how lucky Ethan was, how if things had been different, maybe he would have married me instead. The first time he said that, I laughed awkwardly and told him he was being ridiculous. But the second time, the third time, the 10th, I stopped laughing. And I should have told Ethan. I should have sat him down and told him that Jordan was not the kind of friend he thought he was. But every time I thought about bringing it up, I convinced myself I was overreacting. Jordan was just like that, right? That's what Ethan had told me. And Ethan trusted him. Completely. So I ignored it. I ignored the way other women whispered about him at events, warning me in hushed voices to keep an eye on him, telling me about how he'd destroyed marriages before. I ignored the way his past relationships never lasted, how every time someone asked him why, he would just smirk and say, "I get bored easily." I ignored the way he watched me, like I was some kind of game he was playing, like he was waiting for me to slip up. And eventually, I did. I just never thought it would happen the way it did. Ethan had been gone for 4 days when it happened. He had to travel out of state for work, something he did often. But this time, I remember feeling his absence more than usual. Maybe it was because we had been arguing before he left. Something small, something stupid. I can't even remember what it was about now, but I remember it being my fault. But I do remember how cold things felt between us that morning. How he had kissed my forehead before leaving, but didn't say "I love you," like he usually did. I should have called him. I should have sent a message. Something. Instead, I did the opposite. The wedding celebration wasn't even something I had planned on attending, but my friend convinced me at the last minute. She told me I had been too cooped up at home, that I needed to have fun, to loosen up, and I had agreed because why not? Looking back, I hate myself for how easy it was to say yes. The event was beautiful. A couple I barely knew, a big ballroom filled with fairy lights and people dancing, laughing, drinking. So much drinking. I remember taking the first glass of champagne without thinking twice, then another, then another. I don't even remember how Jordan found me that night. 1 second I was with my friend, and the next he was there, smiling, laughing, offering me another drink. I should have walked away. I should have ignored him like I always did. But I didn't. I had always been so careful with him, always keeping my distance, keeping things polite but never letting it cross the line. But that night I was tipsy, and I was angry at Ethan, and Jordan was right there. I don't remember most of what we talked about, just that the more I drank, the closer he got. his hand on the small of my back. His breath was too close to my ear. I remember laughing, but I don't remember why. I remember stumbling at some point and Jordan catching me. I remember how his hand lingered a little too long, how I should have pulled away but didn't. Then everything else is a blur. I've tried to piece it together in my head so many times. I tried to remember the exact moment when everything went wrong, but I can't. I can't. The next thing I remember is waking up in a hotel room, my head pounding, my body aching in places that made me sick to my stomach. And then I felt it, bare skin against mine. I turned my head slowly, my heart hammering, and there he was, Jordan, lying next to me, smiling like he won some sort of lottery. That was the moment I knew my life was over. I shot up so fast that the room spun around me, and my first instinct was to pull the sheets around me, to cover myself, as if that would somehow erase what had already happened. I remember shaking, panting, my mind racing. I told myself that maybe nothing had happened, that maybe there was still a way to explain this, to fix this. But then Jordan stretched lazily, looking way too comfortable, and said something casual, something I wish I could erase from my memory forever. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't some bad dream. This was real. I had slept with Jordan, and I didn't even remember it. My stomach turned violently, and I had to fight the urge to throw up right then and there. I remember grabbing my clothes, fumbling to put them on with shaking hands, my vision blurring from the tears welling up in my eyes. Jordan just watched me, his smile never fading, like this was amusing to him, like this was just another story for his collection. I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to undo everything. Instead, I begged. I told him he couldn't tell Ethan that this was a mistake, that it was never supposed to happen. Jordan just raised an eyebrow, like he was enjoying the desperation in my voice. And then eventually he said it. Words so casual, so cruel, that I swear my blood turned to ice in my veins. I felt like throwing up all over again. I didn't stay to argue. I grabbed my purse, my heels, and ran. I don't even remember how I got home. I just remember the burning shame crawling under my skin, clawing at my throat, making it hard to breathe. When I finally made it back to my apartment, I stood in the shower for what felt like hours, scrubbing my skin until it hurt, as if I could somehow wash the guilt off me. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't erase the truth. I had cheated on my husband, and I didn't even remember it happening. I had spent all day preparing for that dinner. It was supposed to be a celebration, a night to cherish, to remind Ethan and me that despite all the stresses of life, despite our little arguments and rough patches, we were still strong. We were still us. I had convinced myself that things had finally settled down, that maybe I could bury what had happened, that Jordan had let it go too. I convinced myself that Jordan wasn't going to tell Ethan because he wouldn't want to run their friendship, so I let myself believe that I was safe, and that was my first mistake. For 2 weeks after what had happened between Jordan and I, everything really was calm, and I even started to relax. I thought Ethan didn't suspect anything and that I was okay. I cannot even pinpoint the exact moment he had found out about it, because I would have known. I knew Ethan. Well, I thought I did. Ethan had told me that he wanted to do something special for our 2nd-year anniversary. He asked me to invite our families and friends so they could all celebrate with us. I didn't see what he was doing. I didn't understand his intentions. And for a few moments, I let myself believe that everything was okay. I should have realized it from the way his smile felt forced, and the way he had removed my hand so abruptly when I placed it on his lap while we ate lunch. But I ignored all the signs. When we were done, Ethan left the room without a word to anyone. I ignored the uneasy feeling and focused on everyone else. My mother told embarrassing stories about me from childhood, and Ethan's father shared how much he admired him, how proud he was to have a son-in-law like him. And then he walked in, Jordan. My heart stopped the second I saw him. He shouldn't have been there. He had no reason to be there. But he was. I couldn't act suspicious so that no one would suspect my involvement with Jordan. So I focused my attention on the others, pretending to be interested in what they were saying. I remember my heart thudding with fear, but I ignored it. But I should have known better. I knew what was coming before it even happened. The moment the first phone buzzed, I felt it in my bones. One buzz, then another, then silence. A heavy, suffocating silence. I didn't dare move. I saw Ethan's father pick up his phone, then my mother, then Ethan's mother, and then everyone else in the room. When I was eventually able to force myself to look down at my own screen, that's when I saw it. The video, the grainy hotel room footage, the movements, the unmistakable sounds. I felt my entire soul leave my body. The air felt too thick to breathe. I wanted to scream, to cry, to disappear, but all I could do was stare. I wished I could throw my phone across the room. I wished I could erase the images from my mind, from everyone's mind. But it was too late. It was over. I heard my mother gasp, her breath hitching in horror. I barely noticed the murmurs, the hushed whispers of disbelief from the other people in the room. I barely noticed my mother calling my name, my father muttering something about how he should have seen this coming. All I saw was Ethan's back as he left me behind. I caught up to him outside, grabbing his arm, desperate. He yanked away from me like my touch burned him. I begged him to listen, to let me explain. He just looked at me with disgust. My heart rate wasn't normal. I tried again. I told him I was sorry, that it wasn't what he thought, that it had never meant anything, but he just laughed. A bitter, broken laugh that ripped through me like a knife. And then he turned his back on me and walked away. I don't know how I ended up back inside. I don't remember walking. But suddenly, I was standing at the table again, and everyone was staring at me. Ethan's mother was looking at me like I had grown 3 horns on my head. My father was gripping the table so hard his knuckles had turned white. No one spoke, not even after Dad had run after Jordan and was back into the room. And then everyone just left me, one by one, until there was no one in the house but me. I don't know what to do. I have tried calling Ethan, but he won't answer. He won't text back. I don't have a home anymore. I don't have anything anymore. And I can't stop crying. I don't know how to fix this. I don't even know if it can be fixed. But I have to try. Please, someone tell me, is there any way to fix this? Or did I just lose the love of my life forever? Update. Hello, Reddit. I don't think I've slept since that night. Every time I close my eyes, I see Ethan's face. Not just his face, but his eyes, that raw, soul-crushing despair, that silent anger, the way he looked at me like I was a stranger. Or worse, like I was nothing to him. And then I remember the way he had decided to ruin me in front of our friends and family after finding out about my infidelity. Until now, I still cannot figure out how he found out about it. And no matter how much I think about it, I cannot figure out an answer. I thought I was careful and that there was no way he could ever find out. But I guess karma never just sits around in the corner. I keep calling him, over and over. His phone still rings, but he never picks up. I don't even know why I keep trying. Maybe I think that if I just hear his voice, if I can just get him to listen, maybe he'll let me explain. Maybe he'll give me a chance to fix this. But he won't. He hasn't blocked me yet, and I don't know if that's mercy or torture. I've been staying at a friend's place, but it doesn't feel right. I don't belong here. I belong with my husband, in our home, the place we built together, the place that, up until a few days ago, was supposed to be our forever. I told myself I just needed to give him some space, that after a few days he would calm down and we could talk. So today I went back home, except it's not my home anymore. I don't know why I thought he would be there. I don't know why I thought he would even look at me, much less let me in. But when I got to the door, when I put my key in the lock and turned it, I knew. The lock didn't budge. I tried again, then again, nothing. My hands started shaking. My chest got tight. I tried to tell myself that maybe I was just too anxious, that maybe I was doing something wrong, but deep down, I already knew the truth. Ethan had changed the locks. I stood there just staring at the door, willing it to open, willing this to all be some kind of nightmare I could wake up from. But it wasn't. I was locked out of my own house. Our house. I rang the doorbell knowing no one would answer. I knocked anyway, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. Nothing. I don't know how long I stood there, begging, whispering his name under my breath like he could hear me from wherever he was. I just wanted to see him. I just wanted to explain. But Ethan was gone, and I was standing in front of a house that was no longer mine. I don't even remember leaving. I don't remember getting into my car, don't remember driving to Mike's place. Mike has been one of Ethan's closest friends for years, and I thought maybe, just maybe, he could help me. But the second I walked in and saw the look on his face, I knew I had been fooling myself. I don't think I even got the words out properly. I think I just stumbled through my tears, asking him if he had spoken to Ethan, if he could convince him to talk to me, if there was any way to fix this. Mike looked at me like I was pathetic, like I was wasting my time. He told me there was nothing to fix, that Ethan was done, that he was already talking to a lawyer. And just like that, it was real. This wasn't just a fight. This wasn't just some horrible mistake that we would work through. Ethan was leaving me. I don't remember collapsing into tears, but I must have. Because the next thing I knew, I was sitting on Mike's couch, gasping for air like I had been punched in the stomach. I begged him to change Ethan's mind, to just make him listen to me, but he just shook his head. I knew what he was thinking. I knew what everyone was thinking. I had done this to myself. I don't even know why I bothered going to work today. Maybe I thought that if I buried myself in my job, I could forget. Maybe I just didn't want to sit in my friend's guest room, staring at my phone, waiting for a message that would never come. I walked into my boutique like it was just another day, like my world hadn't completely fallen apart. I should have known something was off the second I stepped inside, the way my employees avoided my gaze, the way the girl at the register froze when she saw me, her face turning pale. Then I saw the looks, the whispers, the way they kept glancing at their phones, then back at me, like they were waiting for me to realize it myself. And then my assistant manager, a woman who had worked with me since I first opened, looked me dead in the eye and asked if I had checked my email. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands, my stomach dropping before I even opened it. And there it was, a message with no subject line, no text, just a single attachment. I clicked on it and my screen filled with the same video that had destroyed my marriage. Except this time it wasn't just sent to me. It had been sent to everyone in my company email list. Ethan had sent the video to my employees. I dropped my phone, literally dropped it, like it was poison. Like if I let it touch me for even a second longer, I would implode. I think someone said my name, but it didn't register. Because suddenly, I could hear it. The video. Someone had played it out loud. I don't know who. Maybe they just forgot to mute their phone. Maybe they wanted me to hear it, wanted to see me crumble. Instead of confronting the person who did that, I had instead just done the cowardly thing. I grabbed my bag and ran. I don't even remember if I said anything. I don't even know if I locked the door behind me. I just got in my car and drove, my hands shaking so badly I could barely keep the wheel straight. I parked in some random lot a few blocks away and sobbed until my entire body hurt. Then my phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from one of my vendors, a short, polite message telling me that they were terminating their partnership with my boutique, that they could no longer be associated with someone in the middle of a public scandal. And then another buzz, a notification from Yelp, a new 1-star review on my business page, then another, and another. By the time I had the courage to check, there were dozens of them. People saying my store should be shut down, that they wouldn't support a cheater, that they hoped my business failed, just like my marriage did. I threw my phone across the car seat, pressing my hands to my ears like I could somehow block it all out. But I couldn't, because it was everywhere. My marriage was ruined, my home was gone. And now my business is dying too. Ethan had made sure of that. He had taken everything from me. And Jordan? Let's just say he paid in the most horrible way possible for what he did. Jordan had been caught. Apparently he had seduced another married woman because of course he had. It was what he did. It was all he did. But this time, he had messed with the wrong person. She wasn't just anyone's wife. She was married to a high-ranking military general. And the general? He came home early. From what the reports said, Jordan must have heard the keys turning in the door, must have panicked, because when the general walked in, Jordan was already trying to hide on the edge of the balcony. But then again, you couldn't outlive your luck. In his attempt to escape, he had eventually ended up where the general's men were seated waiting for their boss, and when they brought him in his underwear to the general after discovering where he jumped from initially, let's just say it didn't end pretty well for him. Presently, he's still stuck somewhere where no one knows, undergoing some sort of punishment. I guess I can say he did deserve it. He has managed to ruin my entire life with his seduction games, and he deserves 10 times worse than he got. But the truth is, I don't know how to feel. For weeks, I had fantasized about Jordan's suffering. I had wanted him to pay for what he did to me, for what he did to Ethan. But I still feel as I had felt that horrible day, that Ethan had decided to just be done with me. because even with Jordan being punished, my marriage was still shattered. My husband still didn't speak to me. Jordan may have been the one to destroy my life, but I was the one who let him in. And I don't know if I would ever be able to forgive myself for that. Update. Hey everyone, it's me again. I never thought I'd be back here writing this again. But here I am, writing about my miserable life once again. A month ago, my life was ruined. I had no home, no husband, no dignity, and I was convinced that nothing could ever be fixed. I thought that I had done too much damage, that no matter what happened to me, and the embarrassment I have had ever since that day, what happened to Jordan too, as a payback for what he did, that nothing would change the fact that I had destroyed the only thing that ever truly mattered to me, Ethan. But things are different now. Everything's back to normal. Ethan had decided to forgive me and let go of the past. He wants me back with him, and he's ready for us to even go see a therapist, just so we could make things work. So we're back happy and strong again, together like nothing happened. My parents have managed to forgive me, and we are all learning this new curve of development. Well, that's a big fat lie. There's nothing fixed. It's my biggest wish, and even though I wish it so desperately, things are pretty much still the same. Or rather, even worse now. Ethan still hates me so much and has now even filed for a divorce, which I have refused to sign, even though I know that I have no choice. Ethan has his mind made up, and he will stop at nothing to get that divorce he wants from me. But whenever I try to convince myself that signing those papers is the best decision, I just cannot bring myself to do it. It feels like I'm sealing the end of our relationship forever, and I just cannot bear it. Even though Ethan has made his stance on the matter very clear, I still cannot just bring myself to sign those papers. I wish I had done things differently, and I hadn't allowed Jordan, no matter how stupid I was feeling, to ruin the only good thing I had in my life. Now all I'm stuck with is this feeling of loneliness and these questions that can receive no answers, because they are answers only Ethan can give, and clearly he doesn't even want to remember the fact that he was once married to me. My parents still haven't forgiven me either. My dad doesn't want to see me at the house even though a month has gone by. But then again, even though a month has passed, the memory of that day is still so fresh in my mind, it feels like a movie on replay in my mind. So I guess I wouldn't blame him for still not wanting me around. I disgrace the family and I deserve everything I'm going through. My mom, on the other hand, only talks to me whenever she is feeling so hurt and wants to let me know how much shame I have brought them. So she calls me to tell me exactly that. It's better than nothing, right? I can say that I've become a shadow of myself. Ethan, his family, my family and our friends aren't the only ones disgusted by me, though. I am disgusted with myself. I've managed to keep anything related to a mirror away from me because the first few weeks, when I looked at my reflection, my eyes felt so hollow and empty and tired, and my body. It just reminded me of the sins I had committed against Ethan and the sacred vows of our marriage. It makes me irritated with myself so much that I started to avoid staring at anything that would project my reflection. Hate is a strong word, but it describes better how I feel about myself. And there's you guys. You make it hard to forget or even forgive oneself. Your harsh comments and backlashing words have somehow managed to make me feel even worse than I already feel. I know I came to this place seeking some sort of validation or maybe a viable excuse for what I did, and I knew I was going to be cursed at. But I didn't expect this much. I thought I knew what to expect when I decided to write my life issue out here, but the level of your brutality just tops it all. You guys have managed to destroy whatever confidence left in me, and have left me so shattered and hopeless with just your words. I know that it's all my fault and that you guys are probably right, but it still doesn't make it feel any better, especially not after reading some very intense comments. It's fine though. All these wouldn't even be happening in the first place if I hadn't been so stupid enough to have allowed Jordan to ruin me. I regret so many things, and lots of them are related to him. Jordan. The thought that Ethan will eventually move on and forget all about me and will even get married to another woman, one who wouldn't turn to his best friend for sexual attention when they had issues in the home. I feel so ashamed that this is what my life is now. Business is also another part of my life that has been officially scarred by my mistake. My boutique is officially closed. Everyone has pulled out, including investors and even my employees, and now it's just an empty building. I hope you guys learned a lot from me because I know for sure that I did learn something. Although it is too late. Too late for me to rewrite my mistakes and undo everything bad that I have done. Sad to take back that single mistake that seems to have now ruined my entire life. But I cannot. Even if I wish so desperately for that moment, I cannot do anything because I have laid my bed and now I have to be the one to lie in it. The future feels so far and almost scary because it promises nothing but pain and lots of regrets and wishes of things I can never have again. Things like a home and Ethan as my husband. I'll update again if things get better, or not. I really, really hope they do, even though I know very well that it cannot. Maybe this is my last post here. Maybe I won't come back here to say anything anymore. I don't know. I cannot say. Everything just seems so uncertain and ridiculously difficult. An exact definition of my life now. Goodbye, guys.